Welcome back to Jerry Yeagley Field here in Bloomington. After the halftime break, Minnesota won, Indiana won as we get set for the final 45 of this Big Ten match. Sam Neidermann, Connor Hines, Maya Engel, and our entire BTN crew here with you. That was a physical first half. You look at the way these two teams are trending. This is a key matchup in the Big Ten tournament race. IU trying to snap their losing streak. Minnesota looking to make it 2 for 2 on the road this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned Minnesota's hot streak, winning 3 of the last 4 coming into this one in Indiana. This was a huge game that they really need to turn it around, turn the tide if they want any chance at making this Big Ten tournament. Goals allowed for Minnesota 13, while Indiana allowing 28. It just goes to show these two backlines on the polar opposite ends of this Big Ten, of the Big Ten Conference. Nonetheless, 1-1, and we've got a new ball game, new 45-minute half, Sam. So looking forward to seeing how both of these teams come out. Minnesota came out flat, and Indiana took advantage. We'll see what happens from here with the 1-1 game.
Here we go. Final 45 from Bloomington on a senior Sunday. The Hoosiers begin. They're in the white with the crimson trim. And, of course, Minnesota in the maroon on the road as they work from left to right.
Sam, you know what happens when Minnesota wears the maroon, don't you?
Good things happen.
Minnesota 6-1 in the maroon this season. We'll see if they can capitalize here in the second half. Of course, 1-1 right now, and they looked a lot more promising down the stretch end of that first half. So we'll see if they can improve to potentially 7-1 in the maroon unis.
It was April Bakken that scored the equalizer in the 31st minute to draw Minnesota back even with Indiana. And now the Hoosiers with the first chance perhaps of this second half. Maya Piper turning it towards the 12-yard dot. Chandra Davidson was there. We talked about the matchup, Indiana's offense against the back line of Minnesota. You saw the graphic at the beginning. The Hoosiers already with 28 goals. Michaela Brown scoring the opener in her second of the weekend. Thompson, the Big Ten. It will take at least one more to separate and get all 3 points. TJ McKendrick still on for Minnesota after subbing in at the end of the first half, number 5. She played it on towards Patricia Ward, who wasn't able to keep it in play. Indiana with a couple of changes that transfer over from the end of the first half. Hannah Nemeth still on the back line, Julia Gilliam in the midfield as well. Otherwise, it's the original starting 11 for Amy Burberry's Indiana Hoosiers.
Yeah, and we'll see if the Gophers' momentum transfers over as well into this second half. I think it was you, Sam, that mentioned at halftime that they credited April Bakken. That was a lone goal. No assist necessary there for April Bakken, taking that one herself for Minnesota all the way down the far end and just finding it where Bethany Koppel wasn't, really making it look easier than it probably was to tie this thing up at 1 apiece down towards the end of that first half.
A total solo effort from Bakken. Her 6th goal of the season. She had the opener against Purdue, the equalizer here in Bloomington on this Sunday afternoon. Patricia Ward dribbling in, and now we'll leave it on the left side. Molly Fiedler scampering in. Clearance by Allison Jordan, and Minnesota with a throw deep in the attacking third. Here is Fiedler. Ward, the freshman, one-on-one with the senior and Justine Lynn. Might have taken a deflection on the way in. According to the linesman, it did not in Indiana. Will set up for a goal kick.
Good defensive effort there from Indiana. Not making Bethany Koppel work too hard for anything there. And, of course, that has been a problem spot as we've discussed at length in that first half. We'll see if Indiana can sustain here the rest of the way.
Here's Annalie Leitner, the 5th-year senior from Austria. Her pass takes a deflection. Megan Gray and company cutting it out in the midfield. And now a ball bombed down the left side for Patricia Ward. She is fast as they come, but she's not able to catch up to that one.
Yeah, and Patricia Ward was someone who really impressed me in that first half from Minnesota, and someone who was really an underrated player who I thought was going to make a difference in this game today. We've talked about spreading the wealth for this Minnesota team. 6 different Gophers, in fact, Sam, have recorded a goal and an assist. 11 have scored in total on the year. So let's see what Patricia Ward can do, the freshman who's certainly earned some more starts down the stretch end of this season, as well as we see another challenge there for Minnesota.
Caroline Dreher unable to keep it in play for Indiana. However, the Hoosiers have possession now. Lynn, bullet pass forward for Chandra Davidson. Unable to pick out Leitner. There's Emily Peterson with the interception for Minnesota, the captain that rested up in the last 20 minutes of that first half. She'll play the first 20 to 25 of the second half. Still recovering from that torn ACL back in the spring.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach that they've taken to Emily Peterson, playing the first 20 to 25 of the half and not the latter 20 to 25 of the half per se, but they know where they need her most, and she's really been a difference maker despite this injury.
Gray cuts it back. Here's April Bakken. Fiedler. April Bakken again. Good tackle, Caroline Dreyer. Peterson keeps it in for Minnesota. Ward is offside on the far side. 5 minutes gone here in this second half. We played 50. It is Indiana 1 and Minnesota 1. Hoosiers opening up the scoring in the 5th minute. It was a mishap off a corner for Minnesota. Michaela Brown, right place, right time to just tap it in.
Yeah, right place, right time, and that's really been the theme in so many instances for this Indiana offense this year. Even beginning, as recently as Friday night against Wisconsin, Michaela Brown took advantage on that breakaway in the first half, but then it's tough sledding for Indiana the rest of the way.
Piper trying to service something towards the frame, but it goes behind for a goal kick. Of course, the equalizer from Bakken for Minnesota. It gave them life in the last 15 minutes of that first half. Both teams playing very physical. 10 fouls on Indiana, 2 fouls on Minnesota. Indiana out shooting Minnesota in the first half, 5-4. Maddie Nielsen still in net for Minnesota. In the gold goalkeeper's kit. That's a pretty sharp look to complement the maroon for the Golden Gophers.
I like it a lot, yeah. Minnesota's back line really where they make their living, protecting against that Indiana offense.
Claudia Day plays it in the air for Maya Piper. Allison Jordan can track it down for the Hoosiers in the midfield. Here's Abby Allen. She's been pretty contained in this first half, much like Wisconsin did on Friday, and now Minnesota on the counter. Heavy touch from Ward. Bakken in the middle along with Gray. Plays towards Bakken, and Day will boot it behind for a corner. So Minnesota putting the pressure on here. Their first corner of the second half. Their third of the match overall.
That was a pretty good challenge there from Patricia Ward, trying to send it in, but to no avail. Indiana's defense blocked. Here's the real opportunity for Minnesota, though, on the set piece.
Heslin, Albrecht, Peterson, Fiedler, and McKendrick all in the box. Near post delivery. Knocked away by Justine Lynn. And Minnesota will keep plenty of maroon forward as they keep possession with a throw.
That's well defended by Lynn there. Maybe an underrated aspect of this Indiana defense who has really come into her own as a senior defender. Standing at just 5'2", but boy, is she mighty on that back line.
Bakken versus Allen, the leading goal scorer for either club. Albrecht's service. Headed away by Nemeth. Dreyer will hustle for it. Here is Caroline Dreyer, one of the 8 seniors on this senior day for Indiana. Looking for Maya Piper. However, Marissa Windingstad there to deal with it. Here is Emily Heslin, one of the co-captains for Minnesota, the fulcrum point of their midfield as a CDM. Now Molly Fiedler with pace. Here's Megan Gray, April Bakken. Nemeth will come out to challenge. Minnesota keeping possession a little more in the final third here. Windingstad. McKendrick unable to keep it on her foot. And Indiana can change the run of play.
Yeah, Sam, you talk about Minnesota keeping possession here in this first portion of the second half, really transitioning defense to offense nicely on that sequence, and that's really something that Indiana's struggled with this year. Another sort of aspect that separates these two teams, I think.
Bethany Copel will take this goal kick. Substitution for Indiana, Julia Gilliam off and Grace Geisey on into the Hoosier midfield. She takes her first touch there. Chandra Davidson, part of that midfield combo along with Allison Jordan. Annalie Leitner as well, so Amy Burberry switching things up. The back line has Hannah Nemeth now. Grace Geisey also into the midfield. One-on-one jockey there. Ward against Lynn, and Minnesota wins. Good music from the band on the far side,
Love
by the
the
way.
crap band. Men's games, women's games, they're always here.
Creates just a wonderful atmosphere here at Armstrong Stadium, especially on a Sunday afternoon, wrapping up fall break here on the campus of Indiana University. It's still hot. It will set up what will be a fun homecoming week. Homecoming next Saturday here in Bloomington. The Indiana Hoosiers taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes at Memorial Stadium at noon. That'll be a fun one on the football side of things.
You have a good fall break, Sammy?
I did. Spending it here at the Yard. Wouldn't imagine it any other way. What about you, my friend?
Oh, yeah. I was here with you Friday night, taking in Wisconsin against Indiana, and then just relax Saturday. A little reset here.
Uh-huh. Minnesota will have the free kick. We played over 10 in the second half. Nothing doing. Minnesota had the corner. And that's about it. Low drive from Peterson. Shot it straight through the middle towards the opposing goalkeeper. Bethany Copel, sophomore out of Novi, Michigan. Boy, what a time she's had already in just a season and a half plus in Bloomington.
Yeah, for all that we've said today about Indiana's defensive back line, Bethany Copel is truly one of the most talented goalkeepers in the Big Ten, if not the nation.
Here's Abby Allen. She wheels around with pace. Cross deflected by Athena Kuhn. And Indiana has earned a corner.
Yeah, that's another corner earned, but it's not the first time today that Abby Allen's had a shot up there up front blocked by Athena Kuhn or the rest of the Minnesota defense for that matter. Just doing everything she could there, Abby Allen, but to no avail. Indiana still produces another corner opportunity.
The band has been playing the Jaws theme on every corner.
That's their shtick. Love it.
IU converted on their first in the 5th minute. Can they go back in front here? Caroline Dreyer to deliver. Piper and Davidson airborne, but unable to get a chance. Geisey tries to play it back in, but Peterson will clear it in the air.